So our first question comes in from Alex Muñoz of CSR Business Consulting Solution Services. Alex asks, how long does it take to sell a law firm? Alex, thank you. Great question. And what we have found is that it takes 6 meetings to sell a law firm. And let me just say also that before you're selling a law firm, there's certainly time involved with getting ready to sell. That is your due diligence as a seller to prepare your books, look at what it is that you have, determine who you want to market the law firm to, start marketing your law firm to particularly growing firms that usually, this is what we find as the right kind of buyer, is practicing in the same practice areas as a selling firm. In terms of those 6 meetings needed to sell a law practice and how long it takes, the first meeting is a meet and greet meeting. That is a entertainment type meeting. We want to just sort of feel each other out, right? That's a meeting that's done over a meal, over drinks, in a conference room. We're really not going too much under the hood at that point. We just want to learn more about each other. And very importantly, we want to see if there's synchronicity culture-wise, because culture is absolutely important in all types of law firm sales. Because even if on paper the firms match up, if the lawyers just don't sync with each other and they don't think that their clients would sync well with the clients of the buyer and likewise with the seller, then we find out during the meet and greet whether this is even worthwhile to go on to the next step. And that next step is due diligence, right? We come out of meet and greet, and then both sides perform due diligence on each other. That involves looking at P&Ls, looking over where revenues have gone with each firm, whether they are in fact practicing in similar areas. We look at things like the commercial lease for the selling attorney. We look at what employee numbers are. Very importantly, often is do the hourly rates match up? That is, if a senior attorney is starting to do negotiations with a growing law firm, but the senior attorney has been historically billing at hundreds of hours less per hour, we find out about that during due diligence. And unfortunately, when that disparity is too much, then a deal could actually stop during due diligence. Let's say due diligence going well, both firms like each other culturally, the practice areas match up. The next 2 steps, very important. Negotiate a letter of intent and then get to sign the letter of intent. This is really where most deals will make it or break it, okay? Because during that letter of intent phase, we're really starting to negotiate deal terms. We are rolling up sleeves and working out, what it is that the seller is going to be paid, what it is a buyer is prepared to pay, how is it going to look, who's going to sit where, who's going to be there, what people from the seller's firm are going to come over. All types of deal terms, the real deal terms, are negotiated during that letter of intent phase. And at that point, parties will determine, okay, this can work. Or they determine, okay, for these reasons, we're just not made for each other. Once the letter of intent is signed, then the parties will negotiate a definitive agreement, which deals could fall apart, okay, during that definitive agreement negotiation stage. But because, again, we rolled up the sleeves during the letter of intent phase and we signed the letter of intent, what we find in our experience is that once you get beyond the letter of intent, we can negotiate a definitive agreement and then sign the agreement. Now, Alex asked, how long does all this take? From the meet and greet stage to signing an agreement, we find that typically takes between 2 and 3 months. We also find that it can take 1 to 2 months to get to those critical phases of negotiating the letter of intent and getting to potentially signing it. So what can happen sometimes, unfortunately, is parties can be negotiating a letter of intent, be working with each other for a couple of months, deal can fall apart, and then we have to start sometimes even from the beginning with a brand new firm. So I think what Alex is also asking underneath this is, how long does the sales process take altogether? Okay, from the very beginning of doing the due diligence on your firm, knowing what it is that you have to sell and determining who would want it, to getting to signing an agreement, we're finding that can take between 6 to 12 months and sometimes longer. So thank you very much, Alex.